Welcome back. So, it was time to kind of do a recap on my ZXR project. Wrap up where I've been, kind of start to say where I'm going, what I'm doing, and why. So I figured I'd just drag out the old iPhone here, do really no editing, kind of my usual MO here, and kind of explain where I've been with the ZXR250, where I'm going with it, and what I need to do. So, I bought the ZXR250 probably 2017, give or take, and had it imported. Took a while to get it tagged. Had to go through a surprising amount of the bike. It showed up with a rusty tank. I had to go line. Spent forever cleaning out the carbs, getting carburetor gaskets from Thailand, everything all over. And kind of when I got it going the way I wanted it to do, I got to do the two things I really was excited to do. Run it through a tunnel at full blast, just at 18,000 RPM, and take it around a track. Sonoma Raceway down in Central California, I guess. Yeah, I'd call it Central California. And so with those things done, I brought it back and I'm like, well, what do I do next? So I kind of parked it and I started fidgeting with it. And I was never really mega happy with the carburetors. So I started working on exhaust stuff and getting a wideband wired into it. And eventually life got in the way. Bought a new house, got distracted there. The bike got parked. And I really like it. It was tough to get, not really looking to get rid of it. So I decided I needed to do something with it. And that something was go land speed racing in Utah at the Bonneville Salt Flats. So I embarked on this huge plan, lose 80 pounds and then like turbocharge the bike and then do this and then do that. And then COVID hit. And I couldn't get spare parts. And I wasn't really sure I felt comfortable racing in an environment where if I fucked up, I'd have to go where the sick people are. As a rule, I think during a global pandemic, avoiding hospitals is both a sane and reasonable thing to do. So, at this point, I find myself in my garage with half a motorcycle, hiding back there, and time, because I haven't left the house since March. So originally my plan was, this is my project for the year. I'm going to get the ZXR going. And then they wouldn't let me leave the country. So I started another project, and I'm now making the mistake of engaging in two projects at once, but I ran out of money for the big project, and I've been hoarding parts for this small one. So let's go through what I want to do, what I've already done, and what I'm going to settle for to get myself out on the salt. Originally, the plan was fuel injection, turbocharger, and go. And the fuel injection is clutch because as much as I love the sound of 4 throttle bodies just sucking down air, the density altitude at Bonneville is highly variable. It gets hot, it gets nasty, and last year when I went, by the end of the day, the density altitude was over 7,000 feet. If there's one thing I know I'm really terrible at, there's lots of things I'm terrible at, but in particular, adjusting carburetors is voodoo magic to me. And having to adjust them when I got to Utah, instead of being able to do it at any other time because I have nowhere near that DA anywhere here, was like, okay, I need to take that out of the equation. Give me a map sensor, give me a computer. And so that was kind of the genesis of why I was fuel injecting a perfectly competent carbureted bike. So at this point, I have a micro squirt sitting over, oh, no, actually it's sitting right here on this fancy little 3D printed bracket I made this week. So I have a micro squirt. I have 4 coil on plug setups from a Ninja 300. I have injectors, which are 21 pounders, from a 6-liter LS, just because they were on a shelf, and I'm eternally thankful that Aaron hooked it up and I don't have to actually go figure out what I'm going to do there. They're nice, they're short, they're not giant. I can make it work. And when I hoarded those parts, I'm like, okay, what's next? Well, the bike was tough to get. I don't really want to cut it up irrevocably. So I got myself a wiring harness to modify and kind of strip all of the things I don't really care about for land speed stuff out of it. And then I realized that while I was sorting wiring out and figuring out how I was going to plug everything in, there wasn't a convenient way for me to handle the timing. And so I asked around on the 250cc forums, and it turns out, like, everybody's like, oh, you can do this, you can do that, you can do this. And what ended up being easiest was on a Mega Squirt group. Somebody was just like, cut a 36-1 timing wheel. I'm like, well, that sounds expensive. Turns out it really wasn't. Unfortunately, I had to buy 22 of them, but I have one. So if you peek down here, once I got that sorted, I'm like, okay, now I know the rest of the project can actually go on. So at this point, that's where I am, with a bike torn apart on the shelves. I mean, it's just, well, everywhere up here, covering that shelf on the far side of the shop and on this lift. I've got a, let's see if I can do this without blocking everything. I've got a ZXR250 rear wheel sitting back there, so I can go down to a 17-inch from the stock 18-inch rear wheel. And I've got a bunch of wiring to do. So kind of my order of operations right now is going to be wiring, build an intake manifold, figure out my throttle linkage situation to that intake manifold, because the Bonneville rules do require I keep the motorcycle both side spring, and a car throttle body that I'm planning on using isn't going to cooperate with that. And then once I've kind of given it proof of concept and started it up, I got to tear the whole bike down and kind of get rid of 30 years worth of grime, do all new bearings, make sure everything's safety wired, and go from there. So that's kind of where I've been, where I'm going. Here's where I currently find myself. Excuse me. Find myself with a wiring harness that I need to go through and strip all the CDI wiring out of because I don't need it. Needing to integrate this harness, which will be my fuel injection, and needing to put it in a bike that is very quickly getting very confusing on the wiring. Maybe you guys can help me out with this. So I started going through it, and I've always seen these wires here, yellow and blue, 4 of them. What I didn't realize was they were jumpered into this fuse block all along. And they just kind of follow along with the frame. And they come all the way up here, where they seem to intersect another harness. It looks like there's some sort of a jumper dealy going on up here, and I'm not quite sure what the jam is here. On top of that, this green plug has a what looks to be a black wire coming out of it. Maybe it's another color if I dig up further in here. That's keyed into a brown wire that's stopped, and I have no idea why you would do that. When this connector goes to these these controls, and this connector with the brown wire bypassed goes to these controls. I'm not quite sure what's up. I will keep you guys along for the ride as I discover what the heck's going on here. Maybe you guys can help me along the way. Maybe this is some mod that everybody does I've never seen or heard of. I don't even know where to start to Google. So, for now, I'm going to leave this off with the where I've been, where I'm going, where I'm at. And you'll probably see an update from me in about a week with that wiring harness ripped apart, this one removed and ready to go. And when that happens, I'll bring you along.